Es un hombre extraordinario.
Me impresiona mucho.
Pues ¿sabes qué? Yo creo que no es tanto el físico, es más bien la personalidad que tiene y todo lo que proyecta.
Ya me lo imagino con su smoking blanco, un martini en una mano y un costoso habano en la otra.
Provocativo. Atractivo.
A new stereophonic sound spectacular.
Hello there, and welcome to the exciting world of HIP. This is a new departure in language instruction for English-speaking people who want to talk to and be understood by jazz musicians, hipsters, beatniks, juvenile delinquents, and the criminal fringe.
Bonjour madame, bonjour monsieur. Nous allons, grâce à ce disque créé spécialement pour vous, essayer de tirer ensemble le maximum de qualité sonore de votre chaîne haute fidélité.
Sit back, relax, and close your eyes.
Here is Mr. Mezick. Welcome, sir.
Greetings. How are you?
Greetings. So I don't know if you catch 3 of the initiative I'm part of. It's not my initiative. I'm co-creating these. So decentralized finance, this importance of the Freedom Sales Network, where it's completely an ultra-federalist model where people gather together and they decide. It's look a little bit what I'm learning from you and from your network, the institution of Open Leadership Network with the 8 pattern of business agility, but really apply to what I will call civil management or civil governance. I don't know. But this is the way they do these things. They invite people to join in a circle group. It's not like an open space because they do it like they gather together people and they decide now, okay, so if we buy a land in Costa Rica, so what we're going to do, so it's all about invitation and then agreement based, and then they will dispatch responsibility and accountability to people's skill in that matter, and they make it happen. So this is why I love to participate with them and creating some communities like this. And we have the third one is, like some people call it D3 technology with open source, right to repair, circular economy, stuff like this. So it's all about decentralizing thing and alternative way of living. Some will say off the grid, and there's no right and left, and that is just people who are fed up of centralized planning and everything. So, and when I saw your post questioning about every agile coach or whatever we are, organization design, so what do we do? And so I just represent, like, I'm not just a fucking agile coach or scrum master, because I apply this kind of real adjective of being agile, not to adapt to the fucking VUCA, but to destroy the VUCA and creating something good with love. And yes, I sound impatient sometimes, and I know I should be put more love in my approach, but it's because I'm so impatient of the masses that don't get it or they don't want to get it. And I don't want, as I said in my first segment, maybe I don't want to wake them up too drastically. So I try to tune my behavior, but it's hard. So I need people like you to calm me down. Maybe, I don't know. So what is, how do we do that? How the open patterns could be at the service of what? Could they be at the service of what I described in the first segment, Daniel? What's your thought on this? Decentralize now.
Yeah, so, I mean, just for context, right? I've been doing this organizational stuff since 2006, and many of us that are listening are the same. And, it touches on many different domains, 1, 2, and 3 off from sociology and various forms of psychology, group psychology, individual psychology, organizational psychology. And we all have read many of the foundational authors and thinkers in this space, right? And what we're doing is we're working on organizations, but are we actually, are we majoring in the minors? Are we actually inefficiently using our time, given the context of human reality right now across the world, right? So in my view, the human social systems are approaching chaos. Almost everything that we've come to know and trust institutionally is breaking down. And we're seeing things like chaos in France. We're seeing things like the whole pandemic of mandate during the COVID epidemic, we're seeing a kind of bankrupting of most of the major Western nations as they fund forever wars. And I could just go on with a litany of things that are going on in the world. So the real question is, are we wasting our time in organizations? Do we have more important work to do? And I think the answer to that is a yes, right?
Yeah.
So
I agree.
if we frame the whole thing, it's a titanic, epic battle between the forces of centralization and decentralization of decisions that affect multiple people, right? So me, I'm sitting in my office right now. I'm deciding to be here. It affects no one but me. But the reality is, the real decisions are the ones that affect other people. Those are the most important. So we're seeing a battle and a tension and a tug of war between the forces that want to centralize and the forces of decentralization, which is actually one of the great forces in the universe, because the whole universe is self-regulating. So this is what's actually playing out, and technology is driving it. We're approaching chaos.
So yeah, very interesting, because that's go back to one of the time that you came to the show with other people talking about this imposition. That of course it was about this business agility or governance within organization. But I really appreciate the post that it was our friend Ryan who, because I'm not on social media anymore. I try to concentrate on more purpose value, and so until I could tune my behavior and be a lot more loving into responding to comment. But nevertheless, when he pinged me about there's a great post from Daniel on the Open Leadership Network, and I read it and I said exactly what in the last 5-6 years I try as an individual. Forget about my professional background. It's just as an entrepreneur, as a citizen of a city first, because my dream, as I said, is building a wall of city-states, of the grandiosity of Greek, anti-Greek, or even the Mayan civilization. A lot of people don't know. They just see the big pyramid of Tikal and Chichen Itza, but they don't understand that at the golden age of the Mayan civilization, not an empire. The Incas were empire, but not the Mayans. So when you look back at these great civilizations, they strive when it's decentralized, when it's city-states, independent and autonomous. So since my 16 years old, I dream of that self-management as a governance, not participative democracy or what have you in sociology and politics. It's not about politics. It's about the taking a stance for your city and collaboration with others and with your strength and your stamp. So for me, it's always been my mindset since I grew up. And in the professional world, that's what I tried to do. And even when I was younger, I thought the union were there to help us doing the self-manage, or doing this kind of what we could call industrial democracy. So I tried those things when I was evolving and stuff. And then, of course, I've been catched by engineer to do Scrum and did da-da-da. And I was hoping since 2001 that this agile values and principle, if we could turn them into patterns, will help decentralize decision and give decision to very high skilled people with the development of technology and everything, and that we could transfer it to the entire businesses. And then from the businesses, as our friend Michael Orman often talks sometimes, taking this open space into the civil and governance to create real community. I don't know. So I think we are there, because if you talk about chaos, and I don't watch the news, not even the alternative news lately. I've got conversation with people, so this is how I know. I'm of course I'm aware of what's going on in the world, but I don't want to watch it to be programmed by either side. And I try to concentrate on those initiatives and those solutions, and maybe you and I, we could work on something, and with some other people, and that kind of mindset, because I believe in, as I mentioned, I don't know what you thought on this, because you're a little bit older than me, but for me, since Gorbachev signed off Soviet Union on December 26, 1991, my perspective and my kind of background of analysis is, my hypothesis is the collapse started there. And ever since, like Europe with his council become the European Union, more centralized, the central bank of Europe. And now you see it like what's happening in Germany and France, particularly. Like they lost their sovereignty, they lost their autonomy, they lost their. So it's in the United States. I don't know because I don't want to, as a non-American, but I see it from everywhere in the Western countries. It seems to be centralized, and if we do like the Greek and the Mayan, they collapse because of that, among other things. There were other things, but one of the main reasons, according to my friend anthropologist in Belize, the Mayan fell because they start regrouping the cities and have one center of decision instead of multiple center of decision. So, is it Washington or Guilford that should lead Connecticut, for instance? I don't know.
Nice. Yeah. So really, the first step is to define what is the problem space, right? And the problem space has to do with what is the model of governance, specifically how are decisions made. Okay. So technology is responsible for the acceleration of centralized, top-down, worldwide governance. For the first time in human history, power can be projected out to the nether, to the hills, to the mountains, to the valleys. Everywhere, everyone can be surveilled. So, for example, 500 years ago, if the king said, no one can have more than 500 sheep and goats in the aggregate. 500 animals is all any one person can have. That's the law. Well, out in the hinterland, people would just not respect the law because it couldn't be enforced. But now...
That's exactly why I escaped in Mexico during the pandemic, because they had no means to apply it as much as they do here. Sorry about that. I'm just...
Right, no problem. So there's a book called Surveillance Capitalism by named Susanna Zuboff, and she writes about the instrumentarians, where in the Internet of Things, the people are the things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that in this, in my opinion, is driving a surveillance form of government. So this is what's driving centralization, and it's also driving decentralization. So you have this battle between how technology is going to be used for decentralized purposes or centralized purposes, and power always seeks to centralize. Right? So this is the first use of technology: is let's consolidate power. One way or the other, through war, through government, through sanctions, through whatever.
And if I may, in a network of venture capitalism and people who try to make fiscal decision for entrepreneur, I heard in the last kind of conference we had together in Mexico City that right now, when you talk about centralization, decentralization, and use of technology to control and surveil, they came up with now on the financial side, the central bank or the financing of project and everything. They are so broke. The central bank are broke, whether it's the Fed in the United States, the ECB in Europe and everything. So now that's why they put up front all of these IoT or all of these like technology that is becoming more and more centralized. It's even like beyond power, I think, Daniel. It's they are so scared of losing what they have, including probably the power. So now they put mechanism in place to control us even more. So that's why they need that technological surveillance, because it's more than reinforcing the law, I think. Because when they see they're broke, that's why they call for a reset. It's like rigging the game even further than they did since probably, I don't know, after the World War II with Bretton Woods agreement and stuff like this. So it's maybe I know I piss off people with my sense of history or my connection to the past, as I try to be in the right here right now. But we have to understand.
You piss people off?
Yeah, some people wrote me that not now, but sometimes that I apparently, you're still living in the past. Bretton Woods and World War II is a thing of the past, and Gorbachev is a thing of the past. But yes, but these are stepping stone that could help us predicting the trend that's coming up for us too, because it's an evolution of their planning or whatever, central planning. So yeah.
You piss people off. That's shocking to me. Absolutely shocking. Okay, so one of the tensions that's in the world right now, in our world, is we have a lot of people in the organizational development space who espouse an open philosophy.
Oh.
Open meaning, decentralization of decision making, autonomy, and so on. Yet many of these same people support the centralization of decision making on the political stage.
Yeah.
So there's a big disconnect there. You can't have it both ways, right?
No.
So there's this. There's also the wider issue of mandate as civilization's policy. You no longer decide. In fact, you might be a bad person or some other kind of bad actor if you don't comply.
Yeah, compliance again. And making it by the community. They don't even need to reinforce it because they make this, I don't know if it's the proper word, but the way I receive it, it's like the ostracization of anyone who will think differently, who will try to be an individual that wants to be strong to collaborate to a strong community. For me, it's like it's no chicken and eggs or eggs of chicken. It's
right.
Individually speaking, we should have rights and responsibilities, and with our skills, share it with the community, not the way around where it's only one mindset, one size fits all that came into play. And when you talked about our fellow colleagues who work in the sphere and the field of helping organization being more open and stuff, yes. How could you have an organization or a corporation in most of our countries? It's a moral person also. It's an individual, right? Legally speaking. So even if you and I individually or these corporations are very open space or with psychological safety or what you call the open philosophy, they are still imposed by the other door with ESG, for instance, or DEI and stuff like this. So this is a one we're thinking of, so for me, I don't understand those OCM people. And for those who don't know, OCM is Organization Change Manager or whatever they call themselves, because they have good intention, I believe most of them, but they are complying to other stuff where it's centralized and nothing to do with their culture or their organization.
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I think it's important for listeners to understand that we're nibbling around the edges around what have become divisive topics in the domain of politics. And if we're going to discuss any of this stuff, and we should, because it's important, then the discourse has to be civil. Yeah. And I have to be willing to hear your point of view and to consider what you have to say and not be shutting down. So I have a prediction for everyone, a scary prediction, and here's what it is. It's actually happening already. It's not a prediction. I'm actually just reporting something. And that is that the use of artificial intelligence, a primary use of it right now is the manufacturing of group consent, group opinion, group psychology. So we're all being hijacked by extremely advanced forms of propaganda.
Yep.
And the battle is for centralization versus decentralization of decisions. In other words, the central body or the individual. Now, we know from complexity science that centralization of decision making is a disaster during times of chaos or extreme crisis. Okay. So in the end, decentralization wins, because that's the nature of reality under chaos. So we're right at the edge of chaos now. And a lot of us listening now that are triggered by some of the things that Alex said. Have to understand, you're being triggered because you've been conditioned by AI-driven propaganda.
Yeah. And
what I said before is really true. How about a little more love? How about a little less hate?
Yep.
Hate is for hate.
This is why I choose in the background that poster that I love so much. That Elizabeth Marinari, my artistic director for my marketing group, but nevertheless, I love it when she purchased those at Unsplash. Because you see, you could say, oh, this is coaching. This is no. It's more than that. It's those self-organized community that could help another community and or the chasme, they could see as a chasme. How do we welcome and really include people into a group or a team or a community? So that's why I choose this to show that even if this segment is called Agile Wars, but Agile Wars in the sense of information wars, not in terms of doing wars, but we have to say it out loud that, I don't know who says that again, if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. I don't know if it's this Chinese guy of the law of whatever. I don't want to quote like these things. Like, I'm a bit tired today, Daniel, but for me, I believe that the manufacturing constant that we experienced before, it's on steroid right now, and people don't even realize that. When you go to a lunch break and you hear people talk about stuff, and I'm more often like, and I do intermittent fasting anyway, so I try to skip those kind of social gathering because they just talk the same record, the same tape, the same chat GPT answer, the same what have you. So it's, as you said, so I wonder sometimes if those people who call themselves, including myself sometimes, but I don't know, I'm doing for the show, are we really divergent, or we are just thinking straight? And is the other who have kind of melted thinking, foggy thinking, they lost their organic individuality? I don't know.
There's one other tension in the world, and here's what it is. On the one hand, we have an increasingly social world where social psychology and sociology are actually more important now than ever.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, we're building what we might call a machine culture, which is a by machines.
Whoa.
Okay. So this is actually.
Hold on. So I don't know if we've been censored, because that's why I'm going to move all my eggs into Rumble. It's every time we talk about decentralization on this channel, a technical glitch happened. So now I don't know, because my bandwidth, yeah, do it again, please.
Here, let me say it again. On the one hand, there's sociology and the advancement in understanding of group psychology, social psychology, etc. On the other hand, we're all being incented through what we might call perverse incentives to support and build and grow a machine state where we are cogs in a machine that's unstoppable because of the exponential nature of technology. And where this all comes together is AI-driven, highly sophisticated propaganda that works to divide us and in so doing conquer human agency.
Yeah, human agency, I like that, because you're the one I think I heard the most to express this, to expose us to this human agency. And I think we need this more human agency, not against artificial intelligence, but for something else that we could build upon. Because that was exactly what I did in French with my colleague from Lyon, France, about the neurodiversity in enterprise. Diversity, there's the word division into it, right? We have to be really careful about this. So that's why I prefer cosmopolitanism over multiculturalism or blah, 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 all that kind of thing. Because cosmos, the Greek roots, correct me guys if I'm wrong, but it's about an assemble, like people together in a circle of thing. And so these mindset have to be in place for us to create a better discourse. And what I don't like is, that's why I think like most of the people on my third initiative of technology, it's more than the open source code or decentralized way of managing like the interaction with the technology and the human. It's also this organic. Is the technology is there to serve us and to enhance us as a human being, and not the other way around. Not use like So that's that's their mindset of creating even like some kind of application for us to help us be a better version of ourselves, but not becoming like more like top down or bottom up. It's not the question here. It's more like about like give us a nonsense of how we interact with each other, because I remember like just before those fake book and stuff like this, like early 2000, remember, we start having more means of communication. There were the Padget, there were the cell phone, there were the telephone, there were the emails. So we have a lot of technology to communicate, but the communication, socially speaking, or the interaction between us, diluted and diluted and diluted more. And as you mentioned, it's just like, that's probably why we don't have any more discourse today, because people are so isolated. That's another thing that this coup d'etat of March 13, 2020 with the pandemic did. Stay at home, isolate yourself, no contact, no nothing. So that was also a programming of ourselves to be more like trapped into. So how does the open patterns could help us think or rethink the way we do think, like, and beyond organization design? Do you see
I think it goes back to what your reference to the city-states of Greece. So, for example, if you look at like the Dunbar number, right? The Dunbar number, 150 people. That's a hunter-gatherer number, the tribe or a small clan. However, in the United States, we have townships, right? And townships have up to 50, 60,000 people in them, and they're able to govern themselves within the wider containing body of a state, right? And then the state is part of this wider federal body. So this whole idea of city-states makes sense to me, because you can have democratic type of decision-making at lower levels of scope, like the level of a town. So towns in the United States, they have mayors, they have first selectmen, they have town councils, they have town halls, town meetings, and so forth. And that works very well. But, it doesn't scale. Because as Franklin said, democracy is two wolves in a lamb discussing what's for dinner.
Yeah. So, the chicken or the pigs.
Right. The democratic model is a simple majority mob rule, and is completely silent about the relative merit of the people involved in the decisions. In other words, the aristocracy, the best and the brightest people, right? So there has to be this tension between federalization and democracy, right? But it's not one or the other. It's one and the other. And the question is, what's the right level of tension? So my current belief is that city-states can scale to millions of people. And the interface between city-states can be protocol.
Protocol based on what kind of decision making, though? Well, because the protocol is it for me? It's an effect of maybe a decision already taken by the community. No.
Well, the issue is coordination. So, for example, if you look at the environment, if all city-states agree not to pollute the environment, but one breaks the agreement, they get a short-term advantage as they lower their costs, because they don't have to cart their garbage away and put it somewhere else at some cost. They just dump it in the river. So clearly that's not going to work at scale. So there has to be some coordination of incentives.
Yep.
So there has to be some centralization for purposes of coordination. Right. So we in the world of organizational change and organizational development work these things at a microscope. We actually have the goods. We've actually used organizations as a laboratory. So
That's right.
We actually have some of the solution.
But how much if I take one of the pattern, the common cultural knowledge generation, for instance, how much that could be scaled into a civil governance? Because how much do we achieve the application of those patterns within the organization?
Right.
Because maybe it's representing what right now? Because lately, just to give you a real life type of thing, I'm discussing with a lot of prospect for new business this fall, and they're all different culture, organizational, they say and everything, but they seem to have the same kind of governance model, which is this old alpha kind of organization, top down, and oh yes, we're gonna give some voice to the workers and and they lip service people, but at the core, they say they want to be this, they want to do this, they want to try the empirical system for that and that, but it's always becoming to the mode of production, not the mode of governance. See what I mean? So they don't. What I say is, in the design of the organization, they rarely talk about how could we apply those principles or those patterns to the entire organization. And I'm talking about even medium and large organizations. So now, to the question of in front of chaos, decentralization could do better. Yes, and your example of the garbage management, maybe some city state will have to agree together to a central management of it, or depending of I don't know. These are like real life type of discussion that people should have and to take decision. But the principle behind it, how does what we did in the organization is really proven workable and scalable? Because
why.
I don't.
Here's why. Because here's how it works. If it works small, it might work big, whatever the technique is. Say they use Kanban, they use the Scrum. But if it doesn't work small, then it will probably never ever work big.
But in my experience is, if you have a team working on something and specifically, I remember this marketing agency I work in New York for. Okay, they needed to have team that were focused on certain deliverable, and they didn't care about the rest of the organization at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Because they allow themselves to be innovative. The R&D and what they were doing was so much important that they have to be a part of the other team and the other department. So for me, this is probably one of my experience where I really saw I think what you call the clarity of authorization and decision rights for that team and the owner of that product line, let's call it like this, because I don't want to reveal these organizations now. So, and so they achieve to deliver new product and new solution from the agency faster than the other that they were working into the alpha mode. Mm-hmm. If you see what I mean. So then, to your question, it work at a small level of these two line of product and solution, but could we scale it to the other part of the enterprise? The answer is no, because there were the context, that was also the means and the outcome base that they were looking for. So which means that if another team would like to take the lessons learned or the takeaway of those teams, they will have to completely adapt it or to reset it to their context or to their product goal or solution goals. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think we could apply the same thing into society. What's good for Vermont, not necessarily good for New Hampshire, even if they're part of a regroupment of, I think we call New England. I don't know. if it's the case, or the Southwest of the United States should regroup on that question, like the water management, for instance, because I live in California for some years, and I mean, they depend on Colorado to supply their fresh water. Am I correct? Okay.
Right.
And I remember because one of my uncle was working for the Bay James here in Quebec for the hydroelectricity project. And he told me that this is back in the 1960s when Quebec start, evolve and becoming something. And when they built the dam in Bay James, they already built pipes to supply water to the Colorado Nap. And I kid you not, he was an engineer working for Hydro-Quebec. And back in the 1960s, they already kind of planned, because it was a New York financeman that were giving money to the Quebec government to build those dams and everything. So they said, like, oh, let's have an incentive that at some point we know that we're going to miss water. And not only you will produce electricity with that, but you'll be ready to suck up fresh water and push it into the Midwest and to Colorado. Have you ever heard of that story?
No.
No, but it's from my, I don't know if we could find proof of this, but I know that they were like preparing the infrastructure some 50 years ago to make it happen. Now, I don't know how much it is there now. I don't know how much the water management, but I'm telling you this because let's say that you have decentralized city-states and that region. But now even the infrastructure of our region, our countries, our states are made to create this interdependence instead of independence.
Well, so in New England, we have the Council of Regional Governments. And these are regions that cross state lines, and they have common interests that they work on together to solve coordination problems around areas of mutual concern. So, this is the proper way to do it, to factor the things that are common and to leave the rest alone. Leave it to the states, leave it to the city-states, leave it to the independent 50 to 60,000 person units of organization, and then send delegates to essentially the kind of Congress about common things.
Yeah. I did the order because I have a manuscript of a kind of a dream country that I have with these kind of, small scales, local community, but that they needed at least to network with other layer. And of course there were some regroupment and stuff. But, and I know like some lately on the Freedom Cells Network, there's a great cells in Costa Rica right now. Their first thing after they buy the land, they were making sure that they could have access to fresh water, you see? Because the meaning is also of these movement of Freedom Cells is to be autonomous. Doesn't mean to be secular or not to help each other if the neighbor community needs something and vice versa. But they say like the first principle is we build a community for all the materialistic needs. We need to be self-sufficient first. And then after we'll do some commerce. It's like the pioneer, like these scaling in history, like you have the pioneer that they could do whatever. They discover a land, let's say, and they defrish it, like, those. And then after when they settle enough and they have enough, now you could start trading. So the trading will be something that should be also decentralized instead of centralized. And now this is where probably the model of governance could make some associations on this and that. But do we need to create a union for that or a federation? I mentioned that some of those thinkers says like it should be ultra federalism, which means that no one should depend on another. We should just collaborate in time of needs and making sure that we help each other naturally. There's no needs to put the rules, regulation, or amendment or status about it. We should just know it. If somebody needs help, let's help him or her.
Sounds good. Listen, I have just a few more minutes to go.
Yeah, me too. But do you want to add something? Because I was supposed to read parts of your post to the people here, but I didn't have time to do this, and I prefer to jump in the conversation with you. But because when I read it, I felt as an individual invited to propose something. Okay, and to go beyond what we do professionally. And I think one of the questions with our colleague Rob Englund was to open the discussion about the various work taboo basic stuff that we cannot talk, including sociology, politics, philosophy, and stuff like that. But I missed that part because you were
there's two things. First of all, there's a clear and present danger to not just Western civilization, but all of civilization right now.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at what's going on, the forever wars, the chaos in some of the Western countries, the insane level of spending by the Western powers on forever wars, the whole pandemic thing, and the mandates and the demonization of people who are exercising their agency was actually shocking to me.
And I have to add the climate change punitive ecology instead of loving reutilization and right to repair.
Right. So in the name of love, we're hating people.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm interested in getting beyond the usual divisions and having meaningful civil discourse with other concerned people about things that matter. That's what I'm into. That's what my post was about. And I hope that you'll consider joining me in this respect. And let's have some of these conversations at the Open Leadership Network. And I hope you'll tell your people a little bit about how to join. And maybe we'll move around the mission and the vision of the OLN to extend beyond mere training and organizational development and to actually advance civil discourse in service to
progress. And I just have an image listening to you and understanding what you are saying, not just listening. That could become a lighthouse of sort into the bank.
We're not going to get there by bashing each other in the head philosophically. We'll get there through civil discourse. Let's have that conversation.
Yeah, and we have to do what's right. That start by this, a more open conversation.
Well,
and
if you talk about morality, you're actually the problem with that is that it's adjacent to religion. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So you got religion, then morality, then ethics. Nobody wants to talk about morality too close to religion. Nobody wants to talk about ethics too close to morality. Okay, so here's what we're left with: values. People will talk about values.
Yeah, but then again, values is you could have values and principle if you're not able to activate them into common sense pattern. What good are values and principle? And by the way, it's a value system will be the same as a religious system. So they trap.
Oh,
it's a mind trap.
Oh, but it's three off. It's three off from religion. It goes values, ethics, morality, and then religion. So if we discuss values, we can bring in the most people.
Yes, I understand, but among that discussion, I mean, we could have the same effect at some point. Back 20 years ago, when I was a fervent, a Scrum advocate, Scrum for everything, and blah, 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 they were telling me that I was part of a church. Remember on LinkedIn back in the day, those evangelists? I think there's still some people call themselves evangelists. So that's funny. They don't want to talk about ethic, morality, and stuff, but they call themselves, instead of agile coach, they call themselves DevOps evangelists. And they use religious terminology about this kind of movement.
You got to realize, though, Alex, that was generated by tech. Microsoft had evangelists, and they read books on evangelism, and secularized the evangelism, which came out of the growth of Christianity, right? It's been secularized to a general kind of evangelism for products and tools.
Yeah, no, but I'm just doing the devil's advocate about the terminology or the semantic of the words. I'm a sucker for this, speaking 3.5 language, and it's all different in all language and everything. And sometimes a word is not just a translation, Daniel. That some words don't have the same weight, and different language, because language is also a culture. It's also a mindset. It's
Right.
also a value-based systems.
Right.
Anyways, I think you have to go.
Yeah.
And me too. So thank you very much for jumping into this
You're welcome. Yeah.
this opening. Is just a start. As I said, I'm gonna be grid off for the rest of the summer. So Elizabeth will push some replay. Probably the decision rights we did a year ago or so will be part of a replay, because people love you on my DARE Real Agile podcast. They say they do better jogging with you and their earphone when they listen to the audio podcast of this episode. And but I know we had a request from Juliana Caminari to do something about your group. Actually, what was this again? The issue with agile values. No, it's not that one. Anyways, I don't have it in my notes, but I know they want me to do a show to explain better the open leadership. Oops, sorry about that. I don't know what is it. Okay. Yeah, so maybe you or someone else of the network of the institution could come and join me to help me explain it better.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. So because that was a ask from Juliana. She's in Italy and she's following the Real Agile podcast, and she's very interested into these. She called it innovative mindset.
Very nice.
All right, Daniel.
Thank you, Alex. Until we meet again.
Until we meet again, maybe soon.
Yep.
Somewhere in the coast. Take care. Have a great weekend.
Bye for now.
Bye. So, all right, guys, I think on this July 7, 2023, I think that was great. So tell me in the comment below what you think about it. And now I'm going to go really quick in the chat. Of course, at this time, I see there's a couple of people. Hello, Greg. Hello, Angela. Hello, Ryan. Ryan probably left because I know this. So let's put some, maybe could I remove this here? Live. I don't know if it's work. I'm experimental right now. So, Ryan, I've a lot to say. So let's close the show with that. So he says, open pattern in service of what? That was the question that we tried to answer, like from the Open Leadership Network all the way up into a civil discourse and a civil governance. Number 2, Ryan telling us, with respect to open patterns, one of the things that must be addressed is org change within the current containing context of. I think Daniel opened it up today with his explanation. The third point of Ryan was the socio-political world at large, with is highly complex, unstable, and approaching chaos. We talked about it too. So I think we're in sync about it. And hopefully we start proposing values and solution about it, Daniel and I and all the group. And Ryan, again, number 4, says our discussion of change management and organization is taking place nested within an alarming context of these wide the world change taking place. Yes, but on that, I agree with you, but I'm more solution-based and outcome-based. And one of the reasons I'm going to grid off and recenter myself, it's about that. It's about not being modulated or programmed, I don't know if it's the proper word, from all of this, what's happening. Yes, there's wildfire. Yes, there's climate change. Yes, there's war in Ukraine. But what about the other wars that we don't talk about, unfortunately? What about the human suffering all around? So if we start having compassion for everything that goes in the world of almost 9 billion people and in a cosmos ever changing, we're going to be sick, depressed, and on the verge of nihilism. So I think we should focus our effort on what could we solve at our level, small scale first, and what could be shared in another level. And I think Daniel and I, we try to see it from organization level and to a community level, like the water management system. Just to close on that, how could a state, the most populous states of the United States of America, the empire of this world right now, is 40 million people are dependent on a neighbor state for its fresh water supply, or most of it, okay? So this is a big, big question about self-organizing, small scales, local community. And some of my friends in my network of freedom cells, they buy a nice land, They're going to build a community in Costa Rica, but they find two, oh my God, I'm sorry, I missed my word today. Ryan, if you're there, could you help me? It's not a dam, it's where they could extract fresh water from the ground. Man, even in French, I don't know the word. I'm sorry about it. I really need these day off. So this is the geese. Hold on a second. That's bothering me. It's live, guys. So this is the word in French, I suppose. Is it a pit? Nah, a large hole in the ground, but it's more than a coal mine, a sucking area. Apparently, it's a pit, according to my Webster French English. I'm not sure. Pit. Is it a pit? Anyways, as Ryan, maybe you're not there anymore. But so they found water source. Let's call it scientifically a water source. So now they will be able to be self-sufficient for a community of about 100 people. They say because they have three fresh water source, access to the beach also, and they could have some apparatus to reservoir. Yeah, but it's more than that. It's really like the source, the natural source of water beneath the ground. The reservoir, for me, it's after when you preserve it. Anyways, thank you, Ryan. I thought you were like busy with personal matter, but I'm glad you're here. And what did you have it for? Let me put it on the screen for everybody to see. And Harold, we're riffing on Rumble. You were riffing on Rumble. You have a channel on Rumble? Send it to me. I'll subscribe. DARE REAL AGILE will subscribe to it. I don't know what you're referring to, but anyways, I think that's it, guys. So next Friday, it's La Marseillaise, prise de la Bastille. C'est la Révolution française next week. Yes, we had Independence Day this week, by the way. I forget to say, but maybe that was out of context because it's 3 days later. But happy Independence Day to all my American followers, even if you're listening to this past beyond July 7. I think for me, as a decentralizer, I am an independent. So Independence Day, it's every day of the year, and it's nothing to do about this American empire, but they were the first with the French Revolution, the Universalist French Revolution, whatever you think, because I know some friends, they told me, shut up, Alex. Don't talk about history. You look old, but I'm old. Am I old? I'm young at heart. And my grandfather, Henry, used to say, at 20 years old, if you're not progressive and socialist, you don't have a heart. And if at 40 years old, you're not more conservative and business-oriented, you don't have a head. But we have to reunite both the head and the heart together to make great things happen. And let me tell you that, so probably I missed that because I'm not used. Rumble, it's independent in my studio. And I didn't have any cue from Anna. So let me go see quickly there. I know I've got most view there, but about the chat. Whoops, sorry about the feedback. Okay, so thank you, Ryan, Mr. Riffing with Ryan, to you just give me a lessons learned here, which means that we'll have to ask Anna to be on Rumble to follow the chat. And that's unfortunate that this is not coming into the and so I say hello to the 7 people watching on Rumble. Thank you very much to join us there. And I see I've got 2 new followers on Rumble, DARE REAL AGILE. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Ajush, I pronounce well? And it's probably Harold. Yes, you're disappointed. You thought there will be a conversation you will participate in. I was supposed to opening the Zoom. I'm sorry about that. But as you could see, and I'm vulnerable in front of you, I'm a bit tired. It's really hot and air quality discussing here in Montreal, so I need to refresh. And with Daniel, we had some kind of technical difficulty. And so that's why I didn't open the line. I was, it's continuous planning. So I'm sorry about this. I hope you'll come back. And we could do more and more. We will have people willing to interact. I will also make more effort to actually open it up to different means. And this is why I would like to concentrate my effort starting September into Rumble, because Rumble provide better tool of interaction, easier tool of interaction. But also I know that for my French and people in Northern Africa, they don't have access to Rumble because, it's censored there. Central planning again. So Ajush, until next time, keep it up. And maybe in September we'll have, like, it's 4 weeks, it's 4 Fridays. We'll have some Fridays where we just open for 45 minutes the lines for you guys and to be more interactive. This is my goal. This is my podcast vision, but I'm doing it for free. I'm doing it as a voluntary. So any likes, any share, anything to help us break the algorithm of YouTube. And no, Milan doesn't like Rumble. Nobody likes Rumble, apparently. Even the French government, that people in France have to use a VPN. They have to use a VPN about this. And so that's for tonight. So Harold Shinsato, welcome. But we're going to develop a better and more fluent interaction. And instead of streaming everywhere, I'm going to do like some of my colleagues do in the podcasting sphere, concentrate on one platform. We're going to diffuse in different platforms because we'd like to reach out, but we are going to make the interaction into one platform very soon. And this platform should become Rumble to the reach that we done. Right. And also the audio podcast is the most growing one. So thank you very much for listening. If you like it, give me a like. If you dislike it, give me also a thumbs down, but tell me in the comment below why. And what could we do to improve? And what could we do also to reach out to more people? And once again, remember who you really are. You are wonderful. You are powerful. You are free to be whoever you wanted to be and to do whatever you wanted to do in respect of one another. I'm signing off. See you again with a regular program in September. But every Friday, we're going to have replay for the summer. Happy summer, everyone. Love you and live long and prosper. Cheers.